Our Bible reading this morning revealed to us the man Thomas. The Bible's a wonderful book, full of little pictures and snippets of information which stagger me because they reveal so vividly and clearly what man is really like. I know some people and they won't read the Bible because they say that it's a book that isn't worthy of being read. From a purely verbal point of view, they don't like it very much. They don't like the stories it contains, a little bit like fables, so they say. And yet I've been reading the Bible now for 15 or 16 years, since I came to personal faith in Jesus Christ. And over again in this book I find the answers to mankind's problems. On every page are written the answers to the deep needs of man. There are incredible stories here of what happens when a man meets God. And this is so especially in the case of our Bible reading that Sheila read to us, in the case of doubting Thomas. We know his name well. We often use it in jest. Oh, you must be a doubting Thomas, we say. It's an amazing thing. But the Bible portrays Thomas as a man torn with inattention and guilt, unable to understand how things could go. The Bible history of Thomas reveals him as a sort of a pessimist of the highest order. Now, what is it about a man like this that ultimately and finally results in something good for him? Well, the Bible story made it plain. This man, Thomas, racked with conflict and tension, unsure of himself, unsure of his faith, unsure of Jesus himself. One night, he met Jesus Christ. What an incredible night that must have been. Wouldn't you have loved to be there? To meet Jesus in that upper room when the doors were closed and the small band of disciples were gathered there, and all of a sudden in their midst Jesus appears. It must have been rather frightening. And of course, we know from the story, Thomas wasn't there. And the disciples went away and they said, "Oh, Thomas, Jesus is alive." Oh, Thomas said, "No way. I won't believe that Jesus is alive until I plunge my fist into his side, until I plunge my fingers into the nail prints in his hand. I will not believe." Well, now, it's a wonderful thing, but 7 days later, the next week, same time, same place, the disciples were gathered together and Thomas was with them and Jesus met him. Now, we live in an age of conflict and tension. We live in an age of what the popular psychologist calls the age of anxiety, this 20th century. Every day we open our newspapers, we turn on our television sets, we listen to our transistors, and we're fed up with a diet of educational, military, political, personal, family chaos. It's an incredible thing. But it seems that our particular age is buffeted from every side with conflict and tension. I was reading recently in a history book that there have been more recorded instances of armed conflict in this century, this 20th century, than in all of preceding recorded history. And so it's true, we're living in an age when the tension gets to us and we take pills and tablets and pick-me-ups and put-me-downs to try and ease the incredible conflict and tension under which we live. We're amazed at the tension that exists in the lives of high school students. I know some businessmen and executives and they say, "Oh, the young people of today, they don't suffer the same pressures that we suffer." But in Japan, for example, amongst the high school students there, 1 out of every 10 student that fails his high school leaving exams commits suicide. The incredible tension of passing and failing exams in Japan means that for a student it's death. If he fails, it's the finish. He has nothing more to live for. I saw in a magazine just recently that over in the United States it's a little bit the same. Amongst the university students over there, 25% of university students will see a psychiatrist or a social worker about the pressures revolving around their exams and their studies. So students and young people all over the world are suffering the same things that we wrinklies are suffering, the older ones amongst us. the problems of unresolved tension and unresolved stress. I also happened to read just the other day, I read widely, you see, and in preparing for this address, I read that in Australia alone, on the average, 1 out of every dozen of us, I suppose I ought to go metric and say 1 out of every 10 of us, will at some stage or other suffer the crippling pressure of a nervous breakdown. Now, I have 5 children, and I know what that means. The pressure on a family man is incredible. But it's, an amazing fact that here in Australia there will be 1 out of every dozen or so of us will suffer this tragic breakdown of just sheer nervous tension, nervous exhaustion. Now, what's the result of all this chaos and all this tension on a worldwide level? You can imagine that if every country of the world were just like ours, what a place it would be. If every person in the world were just like me, what a place it would be. And the result on a worldwide level is chaos. There's economic chaos, political chaos, military chaos. We live in an incredibly tumultuous world. And of course, as a preacher, my single aim is to find a solution to this tension. And I found the solution, my friends, in the Bible. Because the same tensions that occur in the Thomas was alive. The same incredible inner conflicts which bug us today in this 20th century, in 1980, also bugged Thomas way back there in the 1st century. He was crippled with the same problems. He was under the same unresolved difficulties. Now, what was the answer in the life of Thomas? The answer was plain. One day, he met the resurrected Jesus. And the answer, my friends, for the unresolved difficulties in your life this morning is to meet with Jesus. And into the closed room of your life, Jesus Christ can come. What a magnificent thing that would be if Jesus were to come into your life today. If God were to step into a situation that you felt was impossible, into a situation which you felt no one could help, no one could overrule, no one could give assistance. There's hope yet. Jesus can give assistance. There is the possibility that you can find peace with God through Jesus Christ. Now, who is this Jesus Christ? Who is this person that means so much to the Christian church? Who is this person who on every page of the Bible is recorded as having dealt with men and women's problems? The Bible tells us, first of all, that his life was prophesied hundreds of years before he was born. 700 years before Jesus came to this world, his birth was prophesied in the Bible. Not only that, but his life was prophesied in the Bible. How he spent his youth was prophesied in the Bible. Not only how he spent his youth, but what happened to him as a young man, that was prophesied in the Bible. The scripture also tells us exactly what happened to him in his life and ministry, how he went about serving people, doing good. The Bible also mentions to us that not only was his life and death prophesied, but also his incredible resurrection from the dead. And here's the wonderful thing, my friends. The reason that Jesus makes the difference in a man's life in the 20th century is that the Jesus of the 1st century is still alive. The Jesus that Thomas met in that upper room is alive here today. He can meet with you. He can meet with us. Now, what happened to this incredible person, Jesus Christ? You would imagine that a man who went about doing good, healing the sick, making the blind see, curing the lame, you would think a man like that would have lived to be 100 years of age and perhaps died ardent admirers. Let me read to you from the Bible what happened to Jesus Christ. It's found in the 2nd chapter of Acts. Listen to the words of St. Peter, the very first apostle, as he preached the first sermon to a congregation of 4,000 or 5,000 people in the city of Jerusalem nearly 2,000 years ago. Men of Israel, hear these words, Jesus of Nazareth, a man attested to you by God with mighty works and wonders and signs which God did through him in your midst, as you yourselves know. This Jesus, delivered up according to the plan of God, you crucified and killed by the hands of lawless men.
To make your gift to man possible, Father, to allow mankind to become acceptable and blameless in your eyes and able to receive your pardon, I take upon myself all of his failures and pray for your forgiveness. And, Father, judge me instead of them. Father, my Father, answer me, please. Why have you forsaken me? Don't be afraid. See, touch me. I'm alive. I've returned to lead you to my Father. He has such love for you. So great is his love that he sent me to take the punishment that was due to you. Now my Father considers that debt fully paid and sees each of you as a pure and blameless being, just as Adam was in the beginning. And because of this, my Father is able to give each of you his Spirit. This Holy Spirit will enable you to become like him, to live with him from this very moment on. This Spirit will give you the power to reject Satan's influence on your lives. Satan can no longer bind you to your sinful nature. I have broken his hold over you. You are free. You are free to choose my Father's ways over his. And now you can succeed. That is my Father's gift to you. The power to succeed. The power to become his children. Take it. Take it. Accept his free gift. When a child is offered a toy, he takes it joyfully, without question. Be like little children. Accept my Father's gift. Don't ask how you're going to change from a created being into a spiritual child. Simply trust me. Believe that I am the Son of God. Believe that I have satisfied my righteous Father and that I am the way and the means of changing you. Just accept that. First admit to yourselves and to my Father that you do have failures and disappointments and sinful desires in your lives. Then resist the pull of your human nature to do wrong. See them for what they are, Satan's attempts to hold you back from my Father. And most of all, express your desire for him and your wish to do his will. Completely turn over your self-will to my Father. And then I will take you by the hand and fulfill my Father's perfect expectations of you myself. That is how you will succeed. You see, as a perfect man, I've achieved them all. And now I want to do them for each of you, any time you ask me. And when you try them without me and fail, for being imperfect you will fail, don't despair. Don't give up. Don't feel guilty. Simply ask me. Tell me again about your failures and your real desires, and I'll fulfill them for you again and again and again until it becomes your nature to do them by yourselves. That's how you will grow closer and closer to my Father. That's how you will share in his wonderful love.
But the story of Jesus doesn't finish with his death. It finishes with his glorious resurrection and ascension into the presence of God. Jesus is alive. On bumper stickers, on T-shirts, all over the world, in every corner of this globe, you'll find the story that Jesus still lives. We experience through the resurrection of Jesus a victory. Not an economic one necessarily, not a political one, certainly not a military one, but my friends, the best victory of all, a personal victory through faith in the living Son of God. Now I want to ask you this morning in our service, whether or not you have ever come to that great decision of accepting Jesus for yourself. This is the reason for our service here this morning. We speak about coming to faith and belief in Jesus. What does it mean to trust in this victorious, living Son of God? Well, first of all, it means to recognize that you owe God an incredible amount. There is no way we can pay the debt that we owe to God for our friends, for our loved ones, for our family life, for our health, for our business success or failure. My friends, we owe God everything that we are and everything that we have. The first step in coming to Jesus is to recognize that. Secondly, we not only need to recognize who Jesus is, but we need to receive him by faith. When a child receives a toy, they do it gladly. And when you have the opportunity to receive Jesus, you must do it gladly. You must open your heart and your mind and your soul to Jesus Christ. This is what we call an act of faith and commitment to God. The third thing you need to do is to confess that faith to someone. It's a tremendous step to believe in God, but it's a greater step to stand up in front of your friends or your family or your workmates or your school friends and say, I believe in Jesus. The living, resurrected Christ has made all the difference to me. What a wonderful theme for our service this morning, the theme of victory. May God help us to enter fully into what it means to be victorious in Jesus Christ. Let's sing a final benediction song together. Number 72 in your chorus books, please. Number 72. It's our benediction song, Now Unto Him Who is Able to Keep. And we'd like you to stand up for this benediction song. Thank you. Now